What is up, fellow sickos? I am Dan Valley coming at you with the one, the only, the certified fantabulous co-host of the most popular podcasting property in the galaxy, Mr. Grant Hughes. It's conference finals primer time, and we are on to the Timberwolves and the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm not sure it's a matchup anyone would have predicted at the start of the season, but I think the Thunder for sure. The Wolves have been all over the place this year, but they had indicators that showed they were good against elite teams. Are you ready to dive into this matchup, Grant?
Very excited. Great matchup. Let's get to it.
So for anyone new around these parts, we will start with the tactical questions, and then we will get into our biggest storylines, X factors, and then, of course, everyone's favorite, the predictions. If you have not, drop a comment. Let us know your predictions, what we want to hear about the series. And hey, come join our Discord where we have rooms designated to every team except for the Celtics. Their room is typically for TV shows and movies for maybe not anymore, though.
Yeah, we may have to. Who do we nominate for that now? Because the Celtics got that distinction because it's like, what are we going to talk about? They're so good. What do we do now?
You know, I think it should be the Pelicans. Like, shame on them for, like, I just don't like the way that they're not a serious organization at this point. I think it's the Pelicans.
Okay, different reason for getting that designation, but I don't know. Maybe we should put it to a vote. I'm sure people would have strong opinions.
Drop a comment. Which room should be dedicated? Which team room, specific room, should be dedicated to movies, pop culture references, TV shows, recommendations, all that? But that is not related to the Wolves and the Thunder. Grant, I'm going to throw it to you here. What is the tactical item that you're focused on heading into this series?
So this was weird. This was hard for me, or harder than it has been in the past when we've done the tactical side. The narrative side is like that just comes easily, I think. So from the Thunder's side of things, I think you have to be focused on how they approach Anthony Edwards when he has the ball. Which is a little bit like, I think every Wolves series we've had, I've thrown this out as some version of like the tactical thing, because that is just like the threshold issue for going against the Wolves, because it ties into all of the kind of secondary questions we have about Minnesota. Like, will they turn it over a shit ton if you're sending two at Ant and he's not reading the defense well? He made strides that way for sure over this postseason run. And if the turnovers pile up because he regresses or the Thunder are just so much faster, more athletic, bigger than any defense they've seen, like, does that just get the Thunder out running? They get cheap points that way, and then they hold you to nothing in half court, and that's how they win. So it has to start with what the Thunder do against Edwards. Who guards him as the primary assignment? Presumably that's just Lou Dort. Maybe that's, I mean, I don't know what else. Maybe that's Case and Wallace in certain stretches. Maybe that's Caruso. So I think that's where you start for them. What do you, before I go the other way on the Thunder, what do you have for, I guess that's the Thunder's tactical decision.
So I had the same one, and the only thing that I can really add to what you're saying is, how does the way that Julius Randle's been playing for like the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 months impact your approach to going at Anthony Edwards? Because if you throw two to the ball at him and you're working with Randle off the catch and like getting downhill or even out of the short roll in those situations, like, he's just been making the right decision all the time now, it feels like. And so he could punish you. And I'm wondering, so if you're the Thunder, do you kind of reserve that approach for maybe only certain lineups? Or is it, and by certain lineups, I don't even mean the Thunder personnel, even though I do, but it's when Rudy Gobert is on the floor. That's when we are going to do that, because we will put, let's say, a small on Rudy, or maybe you don't want Chet going, like, you don't want Chet going up against Randle. So if you want to have Chet on Rudy and have him do that. So that's what I'm curious to see, because I think they're going to, my guess would be, and let me know if you disagree, I think they're going to be like, they have defenders who can play him straight up, but they're at their best when they're forcing turnovers. And it, like, their offense is just better when they don't have, when the other defense, and this is true of like almost every defense, where if you're going up against offense, if you're going up against a set defense, your offense is going to be less efficient. But like, when the Thunder generate turnovers or are working off these live balls, that's where they're at their best, like their absolute best. And so if I'm Oklahoma City, I'm at least starting the series by, you don't need to throw the kitchen sink at Ant, but like, I'm really testing his decision making out of those double teams, those blitzes, those traps.
Yeah, it's pretty. It is like, we both have kind of brushed up against it, but it's like, it's pretty standard. Like, let's see if anybody besides the primary threat, Edwards, can do anything, because that's been a question over the course of the season for Minnesota. So you start there. But the way that it spills into all of the other potential tactical advantages the Thunder have is like, it makes it even more important. I'm curious what you have as Minnesota's like tactical angle to cover, because mine is like it wasn't obvious until like a week or two ago, but now it's like all I can think about.
So I have, and I'm actually going to preface it with this has nothing to do with his defense. I think there's like a huge misconception that Rudy Gobert becomes a defensive liability when you downsize. It is possible against certain matchups. I'm not denying that, but it's more of a problem on offense if he has to go up against more of a frenetic defense, and especially if the Thunder they probably won't go no big unless someone's injured, but like the one big lineups for them, what happens with Minnesota in that regard? Because I think Rudy Gobert is going to be really critical to gumming up Oklahoma City's half court offense for sure. And so, but if this becomes a series where, you know what, OKC says we're going to just run a lot of one big looks, is this going to be like a 23, 26 minute per game Rudy Gobert series? And then we know how they're going to fill that, but how does Naz Reid perform in offensively? Sure. You want like, he's going to help stretch the floor, has the floor game as well to put it on the deck and score in just a variety of ways. But defensively, you lose. He's different. He's more versatile, but Rudy Gobert is a generational defender and Naz Reid is not. And so what does that look like? Because that's the other question I have for Minnesota is, and a shout out to, I don't know who had this number. I think maybe it was it Dunked On, or might have been Sam Vecini, that the Wolves have played like 6 possessions of zone all postseason. And I think part of that is if you have Rudy Gobert in a drop, like that's kind of like a zone in itself.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you don't have Rudy Gobert on the floor, do you try to go to zone, or is that just for, I mean, I'm generally asking you, is that taboo because we don't play that normally?
Right. Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because that is my tactical focal point for the Wolves. Like, they watch Denver by every possible account, like just a lesser defense than Minnesota, like from a personnel, athleticism, size. Not Denver's not small, but it's like they just don't have, like, Anthony Edwards is just different than Jamal Murray defensively. Jaden McDaniels is just different than Christian Brown. Like, you know what I mean? Like so that's the most fascinating thing to me, because they watch Denver like actually like give the Thunder and Shea real, like, they didn't stop them. They lost the series, but it was like Denver performed defensively far better than expectation. Even if they had been healthy, this was like a pretty surprising defensive performance. How much zone can Minnesota get away with? And to your question, like, will they be like, we don't need to do that because we have the bodies, like, and we're not practiced at it? Like, that's a consideration. Or if you incorporate a lot of what the Nuggets did, and you also just happen to have way bigger, better, younger athletes, like, does that supercharge a zone and the Thunder really can't solve it? Like, I don't know. I feel like all that's on the table. I will say, like, I'm not sure that Minnesota is going to go to that a lot. I think they really they should. I think they really should, just at least as much as Denver did. Just because, again, like, I think one concern I would have if I'm the Wolves is that the Thunder are now the Thunder like have emerged from a tough series where they like had to take lumps and figure stuff out, and like they're comfortable now. Like, in a lot of ways, that Nuggets series was one that a team like the Thunder would lose and view as a stepping stone. Oh, we got to 7 against a multi-time MVP with a title. Next year we got it. We like absorbed that lesson. They got the lesson and all that stuff, and then they won anyway. So like, they don't have to wait till next year to take the next step. They just go to the conference finals now. So if you're the Wolves, I think you have to be concerned that the Thunder are like kind of ready for more weird stuff than they would have been had Denver not thrown it at them. But I still think you try. I still think the zone is like a worthwhile option for the Wolves.
I guess I just don't see them going to it because we've seen it so little. But I guess like we've also seen, like, if you're going to go away from Rudy Gobert. So the other question I had too, go ahead. Did you have a comment?
I was going to say, like, because as you were talking about Gobert in a drop is kind of like a mini zone, essentially. I wonder if, like, if you're worried as the Wolves, like, where do we put Gobert? Because we definitely want him on the back line if we can get him there. Like, a zone lets you put him where you want him. Like, he just gets to be wherever you want him to be on defense. I don't know.
Where would you put Rudy Gobert in? And by the way, I don't really read in. I shouldn't say I don't really. I'm done with the regular season informing like how these matchups are going to go. And I don't think the regular season is useless. It's just players miss games and coaches save their best stuff, or it's after game one, we said like you're focused on this one opponent rather than all 29 other teams. But like this series is, in particular is weird because remember they played like 3 times and what was it, 10 days or something? And like Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle each only played in one game, I think,
Right.
of the set of 4.
There's no information there.
Right. What do you do with, so you're not in a zone and maybe you don't want to play, like, would you consider putting Rudy Gobert on Dort and saying like, you know what, we've seen, like, what does that do to your matchups though? Because if Hartenstein and Holmgren are then on the court at the same time, is that counterintuitive?
Yeah. I don't know. I think that is, I mean, if you put Gobert on Dort, I think best case, you get the Thunder to like funnel a lot more offense to Dort than they otherwise would have, and just like you're comfortable with that as the Wolves, because like Dort shooting, he's going to go 1 for 9, and then he might go 5 for 9. But it's like if that means Shea doesn't have a lot of touches, and then that's a win.
J-Dub can't get to the basket, yeah.
Can't get right, yeah, because Dort's just hanging in there, hanging around with a foot in the lane the whole time. That's you know what? As we talk about all this stuff, it's like they should try everything. The Wolves should so if you're like, do you think they should do this? The answer should be like, yeah. Just like the question is like of percentages, like what percentage of the series do they do X versus Y versus Z?
For my runner-up for the tactical question, since we both had the same ones on both ends of the spectrum, let me throw a bonus one. Julius Randle's been, I would say, really good defensively this playoffs, but when you look at the Warriors and the Lakers, it feels, and he did hold up against Luka, and it's not like LeBron is easy, but the Thunder just don't have a traditional, put Julius Randle on this type of player.
Yeah.
What are you doing with Julius Randle then defensively?
I mean, doesn't he just guard, assuming the Thunder start Holmgren and Hartenstein, isn't he just on Holmgren? Like, I don't know.
Is that the matchup you want for him?
Well, would you rather have him on Hartenstein, you mean?
That was kind of my thought. Or then I was also kind of wondering, would, like, if OKC to like cross matching. So if they have J-Dub on Julius Randle, if they decide, hey, you're going to get that assignment because we don't want Chet anywhere near Randle. And I think you need to have Hartenstein like do the Gobert stuff.
Yeah.
You put J-Dub on Randle, and then does that kind of force the Wolves to say, oh, you're going to have to then defend J-Dub, which, by the way Julius Randle's defended this postseason, but I just thought it was interesting because I think I looked at even that Lakers series, and maybe it was after I started watching Lakers series, but it was even some of the Lakers' best lineups. It's like, oh, like, no, that makes sense for Julius Randle. Then with the Dubs, of course, it's, Draymond makes a ton of sense for Randle. And in this one, I'm just like, I guess you'd call it more optionality, but I'm more curious about what he looks like defensively in this series.
Well, what about the other way? Who do you think the Thunder would prefer to have guard Randle?
I think it shouldn't be Chet, right? I just don't want
so Chet, let's go down the line. So like you've got Dort on Edwards. I think you probably have who guards Conley?
Shea on Jaden, right? Like that's what
or do you put him on Conley? Do you put Shea on Conley?
All right.
I guess then that maybe opens you up to like Shea just has to be involved in more pick and roll defense. Maybe that's more tiring. I don't know. I'm wondering
if like McDaniels will be better because you're not going to put Julius on McDaniels. I don't think you're trusting Julius to be like the primary help. Like that's not really.
Yeah. Man, these matchups are wild because like
series is going to be nuts.
I know everyone's like overstating it a little bit, but like I just don't know what to expect really. Like maybe just matchup wise down to like, have the Wolves really been tested yet? Like how like, or are we underrating the Wolves? Like I don't know if we're properly rating the Wolves.
Think about what you just said, and you're right. But it's like, have the Wolves been tested yet? It's like, well, they went through LeBron and Luka, and then technically Steph and Jimmy Butler's Warriors, and context matters. Luka couldn't move by the end of that series, and Steph didn't play for most of the other one. But like, that's such a wild thing to say, knowing the teams that they went.
Sure, but and double down the Thunder. Like we all agree, like man, they got through a war, but it's like Aaron Gordon couldn't walk the last game, and Porter Jr. just fought through a shoulder, and the Nuggets.
Russell Westbrook was like maybe OKC's fourth best player. That
right,
series.
Westbrook straight up lost the Nuggets at least one game, so it's just like. We've anointed the Thunder with like I definitely am falling into the trap of like this was like a a meaningful series win for them, like in the big picture of like
This
how
was like
good
the
can the
official
Thunder be?
arrival is what it felt like. Like
Yeah,
they've been here, but this was the playoff or that series was the playoff arrival.
right. Now they're like now they can say like they're battle tested. That's I think that's right, but at the same time I'm like I mean, the Nuggets had like nobody health. Like it just like was that big of an arrival? I think it is, but you know what I mean? Like even
Yeah.
they don't come with like 100%, conference finals validation. Like I don't know yet.
The final thing here, this could be like the series that maybe has the wildest 3-point shooting variance from game to game. When you look at how OKC struggled versus Denver, think
Yeah.
about Minnesota's had some real
Oh,
duds. Like it
yeah.
was mostly in round one, of course, but like it would just wouldn't like. Is there going to be a game where they're both just like I don't know, combined 8 of 70 from three or
Yeah.
something?
Well, and it'll be fascinating just to zero in on Edwards. Like, does he take 11 or 12 threes, or is it like, well, I'm getting downhill? Like, you know what I mean? Because that a lot of that has to do with how the Thunder defend, but it also has to do with just like what's his preferred first option, you know?
So here's the question. I think it applies to each team. I'll go with OKC first. Do they go more with dual big setups in this series or one big setups?
I think OKC will go dual big more because I still think there's a risk that that I'm going to mess up so many different teams and players' names and say things wrong. I guarantee I already have, but I think that as a way to like head off maybe just losing on the glass against the Wolves because the Wolves are just big, long, athletic. Like I think you probably need to meet size with size.
And I think that's right. And if you're Minnesota, it would be the same question. But it's always kind of it's never just going to be, or very rarely, it's going to be Nas Reed and then no Randall, no Gobert.
That yeah,
And
that'd be
I think that plays
fascinating.
into how if the Thunder, I think that is best for the Thunder, but it does sort of play into if they do that, I think it will make it harder for them. Their defense is crazy, so I shouldn't say that, but I think it's better for Minnesota that way too because
Mhm.
I think it diminishes the likelihood that Julius Randle's offense becomes super limiting.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We ready for some storylines?
Yes, please.
Give me one, Grant.
All right. So continuing with the ant like giant slayer thing, like this would be a very different but like very meaningful addition to like here comes the face of the league because I do think Minnesota is going to be underdogs. I haven't seen the lines. I mean I would be shocked if the Wolves were
I feel like
favored.
they played a month ago, by the way,
I know.
Minnesota. That's how long it feels.
Right. It's been a long time. So this is you've taken down, name your star of this previous generation in succession. Now it's this team that's like billed as maybe the best era adjusted defense of all time. Like, what do you got for this one? And if he performs well offensively, and that's why the Wolves win, it's just like, well, now what else? What the answer to what else does he have to do is you finish it off in the finals. But like that would be we would have to like really readjust where we think Edwards is in the hierarchy if he's the reason that they also just get through this series against this defense. So I'm excited for that to maybe take shape.
Yeah, a lot of the whole, well, how good can the offense be if it's just built around Ant?
Yeah.
Like, even if it's
Yeah.
not elite, it's like, well, it got you to the NBA Finals, so it's
It beat the best defense ever. I guess it
right.
was good enough.
So I have 3 storylines that I'll go through in quick succession, and these are fun because it allows us to just go after the low-hanging fruit.
Mhm.
The one you mentioned, yeah, of course. I'll stick with Anthony Edwards and say, I don't like you don't say this about Shea, and then like it's just not like Jokic being a big man. It's not something it's not something you would say about him. But like when you're going through superstars now, doesn't it feel like we don't have the conversation of this is a star that would say, no, I want to check this guy in
Mhm.
crunch time. And Anthony Edwards, I feel like will not be on Shea Gilgeous-Alexander a lot of the time, but will he guard him in like the moments that matter?
I I don't know about the yeah, like if you're thinking Thunder need a bucket, it's the last possession. Like I don't know. I think you
Will
probably
Jaden
just
is going to be the default. And maybe even that's the by the way, that's the other storyline. Nikhil Alexander Walker versus Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
right.
I
The
need to
Shea
see
stopper.
yeah, the Shea stopper. So I know we'll see Naw on him, we'll see Jaden. I feel like I just want to see Anthony Edwards versus Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
What I'm really sure of and excited by is there will be possession, like super high tension possessions where Edwards is matched up with Shea, and he's going to be like deep in his stance, like they're going to have zoomed in looks on his face where he's just like hyper intense. It will happen definitely, and it'll be really exciting. The crowd will definitely like notice it and like
Yeah.
get pretty buzzy. I bet.
I hope I
I
hope he
hope it
stacks
happens
the floor
in
too.
late in the games. I hope we see clutch possessions with those two.
The other two I have, this one's like we're already here, so it's not that whoever wins this does it, but like the era is changing in the NBA at this point. Right?
Right.
Like this is the series that signals the passing of the torch, which Anthony Edwards, Shea in the West anyway, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, like these are the newer age stars. And like
Mhm.
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander's been there for a minute, so is Anthony Edwards, but we're so just conditioned to seeing, oh, like even Luka is only 25 or whatever, but
Yeah.
he's had these killer playoff games, and he's mentioned when it alongside the old heads like Kevin
Mhm.
Durant and Steph Curry and LeBron James. Now he's teammates with one of them. But like this is new.
Yeah.
Like this is just like this proves it. Like this is I mean, it was going to happen, but it's like, no, we're here. Like the Warriors are gone, the Lakers are gone. Neither of us really expected them to be here anyway. But like, no, this happened. Is here. Not even Jokic is here. The Thunder took them down while being less than perfect. Kudos to Denver, of course. That's like, I don't want to say it's I appreciate all high level basketball and all the storylines, but is it surreal? Is it like it feels a little just like, oh, like this is it just feels like a landmark moment.
Yeah, right. Because Ant or Shea will be in the finals. Like
Right.
that's and it's not like you don't and that would feel kind of the same, I think. Whereas if it were Jokic or Ant, it would be like those are two very different. Me, I want to see like greats be great, and I want to see the dynasties go. And I would just be like, I hope Jokic makes another finals, and like for different reasons that I would want to see Ant make it. But these two, it's like either way, you're getting like just a giant flashing neon sign that like things done changed. Like we got some new sheriffs in town, I guess.
The other one I'd like to talk about is about how once a Knick, always a Knick players are really just defining the NBA postseason. So we're gonna have
Took
Isaiah
you 20 minutes to get there.
Yeah, Isaiah Hartenstein or Julius Randle will be in the NBA Finals. Obi Toppin is in the conference finals in the East.
Can the Knicks get it? Will we have a former Knick champion no matter what?
Yeah. Won't we? Obi Toppin, Isaiah Hartenstein,
Or
Julius Randle,
current
or
Knick
actual
champion, I
Knicks.
guess. Yeah. That's what a time. What a
So
time, Dan.
here was my actual main storyline. It's the cookie cutter one that we have to ask, is just kind of assessing the stakes. Like which team would you expect to react more towards a loss here?
Mm.
And it's interesting because it's not Oklahoma City. I think that they could have lost the Denver series and Sam Presti would have been like, we're not trading every pick to get Giannis or something. The Wolves are interesting because of the financial crunch, because of the ownership change, but they've lost ownership, at least has lost cover to play the financial. Like you could play it. Fans aren't going to buy it in the slides. Like the Wolves aren't better off without Julius Randle at this point. Like it's
Right.
become
Yeah.
very clear. And like that's kind of the other storyline is that was a controversial trade, not for the Knicks, for the Wolves.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're here. And so are they going to they've reaped the fruits of it so far, but is it going to get them to the finals? And if it doesn't, what does that mean? How do they look at investing in Naz Reid, Julius Randle, Nickeil Alexander-Walker specifically? I think ideally, if you're a Wolves fan, I think you root for Randle and Reid to opt in and then extend off those numbers, or you're rooting for them to opt out and sign longer deals in Randle's case that are worth substantially less on an average annual basis. Because I don't think Reid's at about 15 million next year. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think he's coming in lower than that.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. I think you're right that the Wolves would be the team to react if they were to lose this, but that's almost because they just the way that their books are, there's just more opportunity to react because they have like real decisions and uncertainties. Just you guys mentioned all the guys, Reid, Randall, etc. Whereas the Thunder, it would be like, what's our blockbuster trade we're pulling off? You know, like that. And honestly, like for me, this is something I've kind of come to feel pretty strongly about in this postseason for some reason. Maybe I'm just like tired of the churn, but it's like I don't think either of these teams, whoever wins, whoever loses, Wolves, Thunder, however the loss happens, if it's like a sweep, I don't know, maybe that's something you think about, but like they're both, obviously the Thunder are like so stupidly good that you almost like, if you made them better somehow through a transaction, it would almost be like accidental because you like can't, there's no
Without
like
shortening their window, it would certainly be
right. It's like Chat
right?
GPT, make me a 68 win team. They'd be like, impossible. That's as good as a team can be, basically. So there's no changes to be made. The Wolves are a little different, but like the way they've played, I saw a stat they're 25-5, like since at some point in March, and it's like, okay, that's a title contender.
March,
don't mess it up.
Basketball matters again, Grant.
Just don't mess it up. In either case, don't mess these teams up.
I will say I am interested because it kind of already started. I won't not that I'm acknowledging it. I'm not going to give it too much credence, but I kind of saw should the J-Dub, is he really just a no-brainer max extension candidate, like, start to crop up?
Mhm.
The answer is yes.
Yeah,
And
probably.
especially for the Thunder, I don't mean to invoke this, but the Thunder franchise can't afford to, like, look at what happened with James Harden. I'm not saying they were going to trade J-Dub, but, like, no, you don't do this again.
Yeah,
So
right.
I don't think the Thunder are thinking this way. I don't think their fans or even their media members are the one calling for it. But nationally, that started to bubble to the surface. And I would just like to pump the brakes. Like, no, J-Dub is getting a max extension this summer,
I
and that's okay.
right. Yeah. Everyone, it's fine. He's really good. He's not perfect. He's good enough. One other narrative thing on the Thunder side is, it has to be about the defense just because of all the hyperbole that's been thrown around about it all season. But like, I don't know. You mentioned like the road that they went through to get here. I really feel like this is a chance for this defense to show that it can, like, overwhelm is the word. I think the Thunder's defense overwhelms. And I would like to see if that holds true against an opponent that maybe isn't the best offense that they've ever faced or will face, but is like on a similar level, just athletically and like size wise. And it's like, Edwards is as good an athlete as anybody in the league, let alone on OKC. And there's just McDaniels is like, can be overwhelming too in his own way. Randall just went through Draymond Green like no problem for a whole series. So like, I'm interested to see if the Thunder's defense can look so imposing and just unsolvable against a really big athletic opponent. I think that's exciting.
Are you ready to get to some X factors?
Sure.
Give me, which team do you want to start with?
I'll go with the Wolves. This is hard because like we're at the stage of the playoffs where there are no real deep cuts, I don't think, because like
the Thunder have like 10 guys basically averaging at least 15 mints a game or something. And they have 8 or 9, whatever it is. It's up there.
Sure. So I'm just looking at the graphic now for anybody that's watching on YouTube. I have an idea where you're leaning for the Thunder. But like, so for the Wolves, I'm going to go with Randall. And that has more to do with the fact that like all of my priors on Randall are that he is not a winning player and he comes up the offense and he does all this stuff. And like, the reason I have that opinion is because it was a fair assessment of his career for most of it. And then he's also been undeniably awesome in this postseason and was a huge reason that the Wolves got through the Warriors as easily as they did. So like, that's the definition of an X factor, even though he's a great player, has made all NBA teams, but it's like, I don't know which guy is going to show up. And I think that really matters for a Wolves team that is going to need that second creator next to Ant against a defense that's just going to, I think will do well in making it hard for Ant.
I think that's a good pick. For Minnesota, I think I'm going to go with Naz Reid just because I want to see like if they have to go to those change of looks in the front court, what does that do to their defense overall? What does that do to their rebounding? I think, and I wonder if, so let's say the Thunder don't even force this. Well, I guess it would still be them forcing this change, but if Minnesota's offense, which I still just don't trust, like, do you trust their defense more than their offense, right? Like
yeah, the offense is just, you mentioned it, the turnovers and the 3-point variance is just like, it's baked in. That is just part of the Wolves makeup.
And so like, if you're just struggling against this defense, if you're trying to tilt OKC, insofar as you can even do that, Naz Reid going to those minutes, what does that look like? And so I see him as kind of that X factor, but I also want to nominate Dante DiVincenzo because you talk about the 3-point variance. That is the only guy on this roster that just bombs threes.
Yeah.
Like, and so you bring him in, and that could, if you're having a rough offensive night, or if OKC is winning the possession battle, Dante DiVincenzo can single-handedly keep you in games because of the way that when he's on a heater.
If he gives you like the 5 of 9 or the 5 of 8 night, and you're just like, that's a game the Wolves gotta win because he can make a huge difference in a short stint.
For OKC, I ultimately thought I was Galaxy branding it by picking Case and Wallace, who was just like, you ever watch him? And we said this after he was a rookie, but I find myself saying it more in the playoffs. Just like, yeah, OKC did it again. Remember, we like weren't thrilled about like that Case and Wallace trade down that they did.
Well, it was Lively, and we liked Lively,
right? And the on-ball speed for him, but I was going to pick him because I think that they might throw him on Randall a bunch in this series.
Interesting.
Just because you want to insulate Chet, especially if it's like a one big thing, and then like Alex Caruso will be free to do other stuff. So I was going to pick him, but I ultimately went with Aaron Wiggins because 1, we are both contractually and morally obligated to do so, but also 2, we just spent a lot of time about talking how OKC's offense did go through these points where they were struggling a bunch against Denver. And it's, even if J-Dub is on, like, you just need that third guy who can go get a bucket. The only answer to me on this roster is Aaron Wiggins. Like, if you want shooting, it's Isaiah Joe. And I also find myself thinking that if I'm Mark Daigneault, maybe it's a game-by-game decision, but I might tether myself to one of Isaiah Joe or Aaron Wiggins. I know Isaiah Joe wasn't playing like that. The Nugget series wasn't a series for him, but it's like, don't even eat in, like, if it's Aaron Wiggins getting 25 minutes a game instead of like trying to sprinkle in some Isaiah Joe, just lean into that. And so I think, because my biggest concern about OKC in this series is what does the offense look like, especially if Minnesota ends up being aggressive with Shea, or if J-Dub's having a bad night, it's going to be Aaron Wiggins for me.
Yeah, and I think the series will tell Daigneault like which guy is called for, just depending on how the Wolves are defending. Like, do we need spot up shooting and a guaranteed charge drawn? Then we play Isaiah Joe, or do we need like someone to go attack the basket because things are getting scrambled? Then
we need Jay Will to come in and punch somebody or something.
Yeah, right. You need him to come in and grab people. So my underthink X factor is just J-Dub, because like, can you be it's the singular question we have about him now. Like, can you just be the second scorer? We don't need to belabor it. We've talked about it all year. He was on and off, I think it's fair to say, in the Denver series. I think I'm just going to go Caruso, because even he feels like an underthink, but it's just like, he changed game 7, like by being able to defend Jokic. And I don't care to talk about the fouls that were or weren't called, whatever. He is a level of defender that in a certain amount of time can just like wreck a game, and like the Thunder over-index on those type of guys. But if he can come in and guard Randall, I don't know, like prove to me he can't, or like maybe he's the best guy for Edwards. I don't know, like prove to me that's not true. So I think how much he plays is really going to be interesting to me. And then who he actually, like, who did the Thunder say, like, okay, we have Alex Caruso, we have this like missile that we can aim at somebody. Like, who's our first target, right? Like, is it just Edwards, or do you throw him on? I don't know. I think will he be like, there's no guarantee he's going to be as impactful as he was in previous series. Cause like, if Alex Caruso could do that all the time over large stretches of minutes, he'd be a max player. Like, but he doesn't, so he's not, and that's why
he's not hitting threes and the Thunder offense is off. Like, that becomes something that Mark Daigneault needs to consider.
Could he be played off the floor if it's like we have to play Isaiah Joe because Caruso's not scoring? Like, we have to.
That's so wild. It's sort of like similar to Rudy Gobert, but it's similar too, because it's not the defense here. Because like, Alex Caruso can't be played off defensively, just like Rudy Gobert, but offensively he probably could.
Yeah, I mean that's another key is if the Thunder can just run enough and get transition stuff off the defense, then it doesn't really matter if Caruso's not like shooting well from 3 or whatever, because they'll just generate points that way. But if the Wolves defend well and they don't turn it over, then you are probably going to need shooting if you're the Thunder. Like, that's a need that they have. So Caruso may not be the answer in that hypothetical.
I will say, I love Alex Caruso on the Thunder, but shame on the rest of the NBA for letting that happen. Just ridiculous.
Talk about overkill. The team that needs him least in the whole world.
Grant, talk predictions to me.
I am going to go Thunder in 7. If it's a short series, obviously, I think the Thunder would win it. I don't see the Wolves winning a short series, so I'm just trying to. I think the Thunder. It's like 6.2 games, I think. So I'm just gonna go 7 for the Thunder and give Minnesota like a nice little hey, acknowledgement. You guys are really good.
Right. I'm going Minnesota in 7 as well. I was tempted.
Wait, you're going Minnesota in 7?
Sorry, OKC in 7. I apologize.
No, you have to stick to it.
Honestly, you should just flip what I say, because I went 1-3 in the second round. I almost went 0-4. If the Thunder would have lost game 7, I would have went 0-4 for my pick in the second round.
It's fine. Regression to the mean.
I'm going with 7 because the Timberwolves have the stats have told us all. Watching them, I feel this is one of the things where the numbers don't align with the eye test, and it actually hurts the team, where the numbers say they're better than the eye test does. But it's like, they got up for elite teams. They're now on this tear for the past like 2.5 months, whatever it is. So could they win this series? Sure. I'm tempted to think that the Thunder could end it in 5 or 6 because of the talent and versatility alone. But like, relative to what we come to expect from playoff rotations, both of these teams are deep. Yeah. Both of them can be versatile and play in a bunch of different ways. I'm excited. I'm hoping this series goes the distance because we just spent over 30 minutes talking about it, and that wasn't the plan. Like, it's just so fascinating from a
Right.
matchup and stylistic perspective. Excuse me, I can't talk. But yeah, I'm gonna go Thunder in 7. It wouldn't shock me though. Like, you could. That's the thing about it. If you told me Thunder in 5, I'd be like, yeah. But like, you told me the Wolves won this series, I'd also be like, okay.
Yeah.
And like, you very rarely. I would have been legitimate, and I was wrong about this. If you would have told me the Nuggets were gonna beat the Thunder, I would have been legitimately surprised. By the end of that series, no. Like, that was this one, you could talk me into like basically like with the Thunder's own variance. If you told me it was like Wolves in 5 or 6, I'd give pushback, but I'd be like, like I came out of that Denver series feeling both better and worse about the Thunder. So,
Agree. Yeah, I agree.
do you want to take us out of here?
Thanks everybody for listening, for watching. Look, I hope everybody's looking forward to this series like we are. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be, like you said, changing of the guard. So that's cool. If you are watching this on YouTube, please leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Make sure you're subscribed there. Rate, review, subscribe everywhere else you're listening to this, wherever you get your podcasts. Join our Discord. Links for that in the YouTube and podcast description. Tell your friends about us. Tell your enemies about us. Did I tell you my son asked me, he's like, why do you say tell your enemies? I was like, because everybody's got to know,
Can we talk about how awesome your son is that he's listening for this podcast all the way to the end?
He's the only one, I think. Shouts Frank Ntilikina. Apologies, Jared Allen.